Lesson: Documentation requirements in privacy audits. In the realm of data privacy, documentation forms the backbone of any privacy audit, providing an essential framework for evaluating compliance and identifying areas for improvement. Privacy audits necessitate meticulous documentation to ensure that organizations adhere to regulatory requirements and maintain robust data protection practices. Documentation requirements in privacy audits serve multiple purposes. They demonstrate compliance, facilitate effective communication, and enable continuous improvement. This lesson delves into the intricacies of documentation requirements, offering practical tools, frameworks, and strategies for professionals undertaking privacy audits. A privacy audit scrutinizes an organization's adherence to privacy laws and regulations, such as the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union or the California Consumer Privacy Act in the United States. These regulations mandate specific documentation, including privacy policies, data processing activities, data protection impact assessments, and records of consent. An effective audit begins with a comprehensive understanding of these requirements and the ability to evaluate the documentation systematically. The first step in auditing privacy policies and procedures is to gather and review all relevant documents. This process involves collecting privacy notices, data processing agreements, and records of personal data processing activities. A practical tool for this is a documentation checklist, which ensures that all necessary documents are accounted for. The checklist should include items such as privacy policies, consent forms, data breach response plans, and third-party agreements. Using a checklist not only streamlines the audit process, but also helps identify gaps in documentation. Once the documentation is gathered, the next step is to evaluate its adequacy and accuracy. This involves assessing whether the documentation aligns with the organization's actual data processing activities and complies with legal requirements. One practical framework for this evaluation is the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. This iterative process guides auditors in planning the audit, executing it, checking the results, and acting on the findings to improve documentation practices. By applying the PDCA cycle, auditors can systematically assess documentation and ensure continuous improvement in privacy practices. In evaluating documentation, auditors must pay close attention to the clarity and comprehensiveness of privacy policies. Privacy policies should clearly articulate the types of personal data collected, the purposes of data processing, and the rights of data subjects. Case studies highlight the consequences of inadequate documentation. For instance, in 2019, a major social media company faced significant fines due to vague privacy policies that failed to inform users adequately about data processing practices. This example underscores the importance of precise documentation in maintaining regulatory compliance. Another critical aspect of documentation in privacy audits is the management of data subject requests. Organizations must maintain records of how they handle requests for data access, rectification, and erasure. Practical tools such as data subject request logs can facilitate this process by providing a structured way to record and track requests. These logs should include details such as the date of the request, the type of request, the response provided, and the timeline for fulfilling the request. By maintaining accurate logs, organizations can demonstrate their commitment to upholding data subject rights and ensure transparency in their data processing activities. In addition to evaluating static documentation, auditors must assess dynamic documentation, such as records of data processing activities. These records provide a snapshot of an organization's data flows and processing operations. A practical framework for managing these records is the Data Protection Register, which serves as a centralized repository for documenting data processing activities. The register should include information such as the categories of personal data processed, the purposes of processing, and the retention periods. By maintaining an up-to-date data protection register, organizations can facilitate audits and demonstrate compliance with data protection regulations. An often overlooked aspect of documentation in privacy audits is the assessment of third-party agreements. Organizations frequently engage with third-party vendors for data processing activities, and these relationships must be governed by data processing agreements. Auditors should review DPIAs to ensure that they include necessary provisions such as data protection clauses, liability arrangements, and security measures. Practical tools like contract review checklists can aid in this process by providing a structured approach to evaluate the adequacy of third-party agreements. Ensuring robust documentation of third-party agreements is crucial, as demonstrated by a case where a company faced fines due to inadequate oversight of a vendor's data processing practices. Privacy audits also necessitate documentation of data breach response plans. Organizations must have clear procedures in place for detecting, responding to, and mitigating data breaches. Auditors should review these plans to ensure that they are comprehensive and regularly tested. Practical frameworks like incident response playbooks can assist organizations in documenting their breach response procedures. These playbooks outline the steps to take in the event of a data breach, including notification requirements, containment measures, and post-incident analysis. By maintaining well-documented breach response plans, organizations can minimize the impact of data breaches and demonstrate their preparedness to regulatory authorities. Continuous improvement is a fundamental principle in privacy audits, and documentation plays a vital role in this process. Organizations should establish mechanisms for regularly reviewing and updating documentation to reflect changes in data processing activities and regulatory requirements. Practical tools such as documentation review schedules can facilitate this process by outlining a timeline for periodic reviews. By maintaining current and accurate documentation, organizations can ensure ongoing compliance and adapt to evolving privacy regulations. In conclusion, documentation requirements in privacy audits are indispensable for demonstrating compliance, facilitating effective communication, and enabling continuous improvement. Practical tools such as checklists, logs, and registers, along with frameworks like the PDCA cycle, provide auditors with the means to systematically evaluate and enhance documentation practices. Real-world examples and case studies illustrate the critical role of documentation in maintaining regulatory compliance and safeguarding data subject rights. By prioritizing comprehensive and accurate documentation, organizations can navigate the complexities of privacy audits and uphold their commitment to data protection.